Today's topic is not something that I like, and that is why I want to talk about it, because I think when we declare something that we don't like for whatever reason, it's like there's something in there that we can extract that actually is going to be useful for us, even if it is very valid that we don't like it, and even if there are good reasons that we don't like it. So the reason why the idea of hustle culture came to mind is not something that I think I would bring up myself, because if you've watched my other videos, it seems like I would be anti-hustle culture. And I noticed the reason why I wanted to talk about it today is because I came across other videos and even some articles recently that were explicitly about being, anti-hustle culture. And I'm not going to link any of the content that I came across, because I didn't think it was very compelling. Really kind of like the obvious stuff, like all of that content usually cites articles about how we need sleep and we need more sleep than we think we do, and like all of those things. So, that to me just seemed very, common sense. There was nothing too groundbreaking there that I think I need like as a resource. But so I'm like, why would I want to talk about it in this video if it's not something that I subscribe to? And by hustle culture, I mean just sort of this like furious working habit where you're like, oh, I do this full time and then I do these 10 things on the side and I never sleep and I'm so busy. And I talk about burnout a lot. And so I think that it would be pretty obvious that I would just consider all of that way of being a fast way to burnout. And just sort of that busyness, that like always on your phone because there's always something that's so urgent. And I'm, just sort of, coming from a place of ego where you're so important, you have to be super busy and working all the time. From an editor standpoint, I think you would understand why I'm not really into that, because when you're all over the place all the time and so busy and so running around and so crazed, quality suffers. I don't think there's any way that quality can't suffer when you're not detail-oriented, because you just have too much to do to be detail-oriented. So obviously the editor part of me does not like the idea of just being like, we have to be working all the time and we're so, jam-packed in with all these things, because, again, the quality suffers. When you operate like that, I really don't think there's any dispute about that. I just flat out think that happens and you're not producing a level of high quality when you operate like that. So why am I talking about this if it's all just very obvious? Because I also talk about how much practice goes into writing. So you would think, or if when on your way to becoming a writer and to just being a writer in general, you have to practice so much. So you think that would be in line with like, I'm hustling on my journey to becoming a writer. And it's a valid point, but I think there's a really easy, in my brainstorming for this video, I just extracted, going back to what I said at the very beginning of this video, I just kind of extracted, okay, what can we get out of hustle culture so we could put that to work and then move on and then forget about talking about it again. And I think it comes down to time management, because you do have to practice a lot if you want to be a writer. And that doesn't mean you have to be burning the candle at both ends and neglecting your well-being at the same time. It just means you have to be very intentional about how you spend your time and what is important to you. So I think that's what we can get from the mentality of I'm working really hard towards this thing that I want to accomplish. Because if I'm going to be less negative about hustling, it is that, there's a goal that someone's working for that is admirable. So that's my little positive sprinkle on, someone who's really crazed about what they're doing. But like I always say, you don't want to do that at the expense of your well-being, because it's not going to be sustainable over the long term. And but I will link to other videos and other articles that I've written about productivity, because that extraction of what we can get from it really comes down to productivity, and that's where I was going when I mentioned time management. So the tip that I think is really helpful that we can gain from this overzealous, hardworking attitude is really simple. And if you have a project that you're working on and you need to practice being a writer or an artist or whatever you're working on, my tip and what I found the most helpful is to find the time to work on your project 30 minutes before you start whatever you do full time and 30 minutes after whatever you do full time. I think that is the most manageable way to hustle towards your goal while you have something else going on full time. So that really easily could look like waking up 30 minutes to an hour earlier so that you have those extra 30 minutes. But breaking it up before and after whatever you do during the chunk of your day, the majority of your day, is a really important habit that keeps you doing this day in and day out, because that's where the hustle mentality comes from, and that's where that like practice mentality comes from, is that you have to keep doing it. You can't do that once a week and expect to get there as fast as you want to. It's really a habit that you have to stick with, and that's why I don't like those quick paths to burnout, because you're not going to be able to stick with it. So that is what I recommend, and I've been using that lately. And I think it's important to note for my videos, I speak to a lot that you might not have anything, or I speak to the idea of you might not have anything to show. Can I talk? Apparently talking is not working for me today. That you might not have anything to show yet if on your journey being a writer. And that's a really important phase of being a writer. You just sort of marinating in your ideas and seeing which way is the best for you to go. And that is where I'm at with a new project that I'm working on, and I'm using the 30 minutes before work and 30 minutes after work time management to make progress on this new goal. So I created an Instagram for Revision Fairy, and nothing's going on there. You can follow it for eventually, in theory, there will be something going on there eventually. I think that's a good example of when you you aren't there yet, but you're working on something. And I want to combine visual art with words, and I have lots of things that I'm working on, but I just don't have anything to show for it yet. And again, I talk about that stuff on this channel because I really honor that phase of the creative process, and I want to help give tips about how to guide you through that stage. It's not always about, you've had a blog for years. And I mean, when you're there, you're at that stage. But the marinating stage, where you're working on something without having anything to post publicly yet, is a really important phase. So yeah, you can follow the Revision Fairy Instagram and be all ready there when I do eventually start posting things. Not sure when that's going to happen, but I'm working on it with the tip in this video. If you're not already subscribed to the Revision Fairy channel, click that red subscribe button below the video for more writing tips on Wednesdays. And if you tap the notification bell, you will get a note when I have a new video ready for you. So I will see you next week.